Hello, folks, and thank you once again for joining me on this journey. It's another episode of Microsoft and Azure Security series. So on this episode, I want to walk us through Microsoft Intune. That is our MDM product, and it's very popular. But before I do that, let me give you this scenario. Your security team has just discovered that an employee's laptop was used to exfiltrate 6 months of customer records. You look at the investigation and you realize three things happened. One, the device was never enrolled in your MDM, so nobody knew it was accessing corporate resources. Number two, because it was uncontrolled, conditional access had no compliance signal for it and allowed it through anyway. Third, the employees had installed an application that was not approved, not scanned, and not on any inventory list anywhere. So one device, three failures. All of them were preventable with proper endpoint management. That is the problem Microsoft Intune exists to solve. Welcome back to my series, Microsoft and Azure Security series. And this episode is dedicated to Microsoft Intune, the MDM or Unified Endpoint Management System. So in this series, I've covered, various toolings and services within that particular landscape. But this episode is dedicated to Intune. And okay, so Unified Endpoint Management, the platform that governs every device and every application that touches your corporate data. I have an Intune trial tenant, so let me put that one out there. I have an Intune trial tenant, set up specifically for this walkthrough. Services released in 2026. And if there is anything that maybe, because there are a lot of nuances to licenses here, so I will call them out so that when you deploy yours, if there is anything you see that is a bit different, you will know why you have it that way. So the first thing I want us to look at is what Intune actually is. You understand me now? So let me give you the frame. Let's just look at it. Microsoft Intune is your unified endpoint management, platform. It governs everything accessing your corporate resources, Windows, Apple Mobile, macOS, Android, Linux, and every application deployed to those endpoints, or devices. But here is what makes Intune a security tool, not just an IT, service management tooling. It generates compliance signals that feed directly into Entra Conditional Access. So you can see how it's fitting into Microsoft's security landscape now. When a device is enrolled in Intune and has compliance policy applied, Entra Conditional Access knows whether that device meets your security requirement at the moment it tries to access resources. No compliant device, access block, automatically, no human decision is required. That is zero trust endpoint enforcement story. Intune is the enforcement engine. Yeah, Intune is the enforcement engine that allows you to do that. So that zero endpoint, Intune is the enforcement engine. Entra is the policy brain. Together, they implement the principle that no device should be trusted simply because a user has a valid credential. You get that? So why Intune is an enforcement engine? Entra is a policy brain. That shows that the policy must exist within the Entra ecosystem. And as of 2026, Intune has also managed a category of endpoint that did not exist a few years ago. I have to call that one out. AI agents. So the user session now has AI agents. Your AI agents are becoming endpoints that need the same governance as physical devices. We will come back to that later. But let me just I know you've been checking. You will see my screen, so you can look at this is Microsoft Intune Admin Center, and you can see like the dashboard. You can see whether devices enrollment. I don't have much. I did not enroll anything here, but it's just to show you the look and feel and how it should also reflect in your end. So, and if you look at it, you will see on my left hand side of the blade, you will see you see agent here, you see endpoint security, you see app, you see devices, you see explorer, and you see users, you see groups, you see tenant administration. So all these things are things that I want to take us through, very quickly, so that we have an idea of what is going on. So for the context, my Intune portal is standalone Intune trial. So a completely separate tenant from my Office 365 E5 tenant used in my previous episode. So Microsoft Intune is not included in the Office 365 E5 license. To get Intune, you need one of the following. You need 365 E3, which plan 1 included. You need 365 E5, with plan 2 included. Microsoft Intune standalone license, plan like 1 or 2, plan 2. Those are the things you need. Microsoft Intune Suite advanced add-on capabilities. If you have any of this license, then you should be able to do do your iTunes, maybe walk through, or you want to deploy some things and see how it behaves. So my trial shown 25 iTunes license and 0 enrolled device, a clean environment I can walk you through without pre-existing configuration. Everything I show you is the baseline start and starting point. So just so we know that. Now, for the purpose of transparency, so if you want to access Intune is in intune.microsoft.com. So it's not within Entra ID and it's not within Purview, So it's within, it has its own portal. So it's intune.microsoft.com. Okay, so let's go to the home and dashboard. So if you look at it, this is my home and this is my dashboard. Home gives you your quick access, ties and recent activities dashboard. Give you a customizable view of widget, device compliance overview, app protection, like I said, policy status, enrollment failure, and service health. This is your operational money view, equivalent to the home page in other portals we have covered in this series. So the core pilot button appears in the top right corner. You see it here. So it appears, and but I will come back to that, what that actually unlock, and when we hit the Explorer agent. But for now, let me start with our device. So the first thing I want us to look at here is the device. So if you look at the device here, you will see that we have a Windows, Apple's mobile. These are the device category that it supports. And apart from that, you see a lot of things you can do, like onboarding, like enrollment, like management, like scripting. You can do with these devices. So device is the core of Intune. Let's get that. It's MDM, solution. This is where every managed device, in your organization lives. The overview show you fleet organized, by platform, Windows, macOS, Linux. In my tenant, all 5 shows 0 because I have not enrolled anything yet. Okay, in a production environment, this is where you see your entire managed devices estate at a glance with health status, compliance rate, and policy assignment failure. Now, let me walk you through enrollment. So, the next thing I want us to look at, if you look at enrollment here, so under device onboarding, you see enrollment. So you can see you can do automatic enrollment. You have enabled it. So, and after that, you can go to device. You understand what I'm saying now? And if you want to do enrollment here, you can import. So you can import, select your CSV file for the information about the device. So is that very straightforward and very simple. And sometimes you can do other. There are other means you can do bulk loading, but that is not within the scope of this walkthrough. So enrollment is where you define how devices get into Intune. This is the entry point to the managed estate. Without enrollment, no device is governed. So Windows enrollment method include Windows Autopilot, where a new device from the manufacturer arrives at the employee's desk, powers on, connect to the internet, and it automatically enrolled, configured, and ready to use without IT touching it. Zero touch provisioning. This device download its policy, installed its application, and it's compliant before the employees finish setting it up. For Apple's devices, you configure Apple Business Manager integration and automated device enrollment. Apple's equivalent of Autopilot for iPhone, iPad, and Macs. Bring your own device, personal devices, accessing corporate resources. You use your user-driven enrollment where the employees install the company's portal application and enroll their own device. They keep personal privacy, and you get compliance signals and the ability to push company apps and remove corporate data through selective wipe if needed. So it allows for bring your own device so that signals that are coming from that device can be monitored, and you can have access to company specific applications and some security features as well. And if there is need for it to be remotely managed, that can be possible. Depending on the use case. So I move to. So that is for enrollment here. Like I said, you have Apple here, you have Android here, and you have corporate devices here. You have enrollment device managers. You have monitor. You can do a lot here, And the other thing I want to say here is configuration. So configuration is, if you look at this configuration, is under managed devices. So what does it do? Now you can create a policy here. So you can create policy, you can import policy. But what does that mean? It means configuration policy are where you define how enrolled devices are set up. Think of this as a modern replacement for group policy, but cloud native, platform aware, and applied regardless of whether the device ever touches your corporate network or not. So, and apply, whether yes or not. So you create configuration profiles that enforce settings across your device fleet, password requirement, encryption mandate, VPN configuration, Wi-Fi profile, email account setup, browser settings, kiosk mode, screen timeout, USB, restriction, all delivered over the air to every enrolled in scope. This is one of the things I love most about MDM in those days when I started using it, is the fact that you can deploy, you can enforce, some policies across the fleet, with a single deployment, capability. Like, okay, this is the minimum password strength we want. This is encryption mandate, like said here, and email account setup, browsers, and some other things that you can enforce from this configuration. So the security value, a device that is enrolled but has no configuration profile applied, is not actually governed. Configuration profiles are how you ensure that every device in your estate meets your security baseline before it's ever access a resources or a resource. So then, that is how it's being done. So the next thing you can talk about there is compliance. Compliance policies define what compliance means for each platform. This is the section that feed directly into Entra Conditional Access. So you can, it's also a policy here, but these policies are mostly, like, okay, what make a Linux box compliant to maybe some regulatory and obligations. So you define compliance requirements, minimum OS version, like you can see, minimum OS version that we can allow here. BitLocker encryption required, like if you want BitLocker to be enabled, so that when somebody is trying to, maybe funny with your hard disk or your operating system, then that can be locked, So no jailbreak or root detected defender. Defender for endpoint threat level must be low or medium. Pin required. A device either meets those requirements or it does not. So now compliance is where you set the requirement that must be made for that particular, endpoint to be operational within your estate. When a device falls out of compliance, the OS patch have not been applied, the user disabled encryption, the device shows signs of compromise. Intune mark it as non-compliant. That status is immediately available to Entra Conditional Access. Your CA, Certificate Authority Policy, says non-compliant. Device attempting to access Exchange Online gets blocked. No tickets, no manual review, no delay. That is zero trust device enforcement law. Intune evaluate compliance. Entra enforce access based on it continuously at every access attempt. So let's look at a small note here. You can also see conditional access as a sub-item directly inside devices. Manage and manage devices. So if you go to devices here, let me get this. Let me get to devices. Okay. So devices, then manage devices. Okay. The compliance, you see conditional access. So that's what I'm trying to say. So you can see the conditional access I was talking about. So so you can create policy here. So this is what Entra, implement. So that is the direct link between Intune compliance and Entra CA from inside the Intune portal. The same conditional access policy you manage in Entra are visible and linkable here, because device compliance is the primary Intune signal those policies evaluate. So that is that. So let's go to script and remediation. So under this place, let me look at script and remediation. Okay, where are you? Okay, let me go to devices. And if you go to this place, you see script and remediation. So you have that there. So what is this? What do you get from it? Script and remediation lets you run PowerShell script and custom detection and remediation script across your managed Windows and OS devices at scale. Detection scripts check for conditions. Is this registry key present? Is this service running? Is this file in the right location? Remediation scripts fix it if the detection find a problem. The two run together as a pair. Detect the issue, fix it automatically, report the result. This is how you handle configuration drift. Best scope configuration hardening that configuration profile don't cover, and automated remediation of common issues without requiring a help desk ticket or remote session. So that is what it does. If you look at it here, you can export. You can export script here. You can see platform script. You can add it from here. Maybe it's for Windows or whatever. So this is not a deep dive. So it's just a walkthrough that go a long way to tell us what we need to do. Then you can pick up when you know what to do about every business requirement, then and the tooling to do it, what to do with it, the tooling to do, understand the process. Then the next thing is for you to pick up the tool and implement it, the best way possible. So I want to go to group policy analytic. So group policy analytic, do we have that here? Okay. Good. So under device management or device generally, we have group policy analytics. Group policy analytics is the organization, migrating from traditional on-premises group policy to Intune cloud management. You import your existing GPU XML file and Intune analyze them, showing you which policy have a direct Intune equivalent, which needs custom configuration, and which are not supported in the cloud management model. So this is your migration planning tool. It takes the guesswork out of what do we do with our 400 GPUs, group policy object, when we move to cloud native management. So for those of us that have worked with Windows Server group policy before, we know how we use that group policy to deploy let me say requirements across tools and applications. So now if you are migrating from that environment to cloud to MDM environment like Intune, then this is a migration tool that can help you to streamline that. What do you do? Import it to this environment. You can import your group policy here. Yes, and it will analyze it and tell you, okay, these are the ones that are aligned with what Intune can handle. You can use this, and these are not aligned. Then that kind of help you to do much more with your migration. Now that we are done with devices, then I can move to apps. So now under the apps here, apps is where you manage the full application lifecycle across your managed device fleet. How you deploy applications within your estate, configuration, protection, and removal. Okay, and removal. So the overview organizes app management by platform. So you see Windows, iOS, iPad OS, Mac OS, and Android. So if you look at it here, you can see your apps. These are the platform where you can have the apps, right? So then the app configuration and deployment. So when you go to this place, you see configuration here. So now the app configuration is for Windows. You deploy Win32 applications, Microsoft Stores app, and the Microsoft 365 app using deployment profile that specify installation command, detection rules, requirement, and dependencies. Apps are delivered silently to enrolled device without user intervention. You can require an app to be present or make it available in the company portal for optional installation. This is where you deliver app. This is where you deliver app to your endpoint without ticket, without IT support, and what have you. Sometimes you see that you can even go to maybe your local IT services interface where you can browse some internal tooling, and you see that you can install it because it's already made available there. You can just download and install it because it's made to be that way. Okay, so for mobile platforms, you deploy iOS, Android apps from their respective stores, catalog, or enterprise pack application through the Apple Business Manager or Android Enterprise. So that is what I want to say there. So let's move forward to go to app protection. So the next thing here is app protection. So what do you do here? You can create let me say Android, and put the name, description, then put the requirements, data protection, everything. Then you create that. So let me see test. Just feel like test too. And then let me just go a bit. Okay, so target policy. So all app, we want that policy to target all app. And this is where the real job is being done. Where you put the settings, access the requirement, a lot of things, conditional launch, a lot of things you do along this workflow. And when you create that, these are the things you can do. This is a tool you can use to protect your app, to protect your app. So then moving away from protection, okay, let me have something here. App protection policy. So mobile application management is the capability that extends Intune's reach beyond enrolled devices. This is the bring your own device story. A user has a personal iPhone. The organization wants them to access corporate email through the Outlook app and edit document through Words, but you cannot enroll and fully manage their personal device. So app protection policies solve this by containerizing corporate data inside specific application. So the Outlook app on their personal phone is governed. Corporate data inside it cannot be copied to a personal app, cannot be saved to personal storage, cannot be shared to non-managed applications. So the rest of their personal device is completely untouched. You have never seen their personal photos, their personal apps, their personal messages. So when employees leave the organization or their device is lost, you run a selective wipe. Only the corporate data inside the managed application is removed. Their personal content is completely untouched. So that is what achieve for you. The protection, yes, the app protection. That is what it achieved for you. So the next thing is policy for Microsoft 365 app. Policy for Microsoft 365 app. Okay, you see that? So cloud policy service for 365 lets you enforce policy settings for the app, 365 app for enterprise users device. I don't want us to move to, get out of this environment, but let me see this very quickly. This subsection lets you configure and enforce settings for your 365 desktop application like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, using cloud policy rather than group policy. Which office feature are enabled, which telemetry settings are applied, which macro settings, security settings are enforced, apply to all users, assign the policy regardless of where they sign in from. So bottom line is that this allows you to enforce some settings on your productivity tools like Windows, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Now, so I will leave that. I will go to endpoint security, which is big on our platform. So that is one of the reasons why we are here, right? So let's look at this. So if you look at endpoint security here, you see a lot of things. You see security baseline, security task, you see antivirus, disk encryption, you see firewall, couple a lot of things, a whole lot of things here that you can do within that blade. So endpoint security is the security specific management layer in Intune, the section where device security configuration means three responses. Let's look at it from this perspective. So the overview page is significant. It shows the defender for endpoint connector status. So you see, this is the overview page. So defender status here. Okay. To get out of that, so I don't want to get out of that. But if you, what I'm trying to show is the fact that that endpoint is actually an Office 365 or 365 defender, that is actually working from this place. So whatever you see here is just like a link to one of the points we discussed before in some of our video series when I was discussing Microsoft Defender for 365. So that is that. So you see that. So in the portal, this read Defender for endpoint connector unavailable. But it does it say unavailable. Yes, that tells you that something important for your viewers who are following. That tells you something very important. The my Intune client is a separate tenant from my Office 365 that I used for some of the previous video. So now when I click on it, you see it takes me. It's trying to initiate a new tenant in Microsoft Defender. So it's so the point I'm trying to make is that if I have a Microsoft Defender, let me say Defender 365 Defender in a separate license, in a separate email, and I have Intune in a separate license, the two will not work together. So you have to notice that, because that was what happened here with me. So I have them with different emails, and that is why I just have to activate another one here. So that is that. So now, in a real production environment, you would connect Intune to your Defender for endpoint, so that threat intelligence from Defender feed back into Intune compliance. So that was what I was trying to explain. When you want to set up in a production environment, you make sure that you use the same profile to set up your Defender and your Intune, so that at the end of the day, the two can communicate, because the signals that are coming from Defender must be fed into Intune, and vice versa must be fed into that. So that connection requires both product to be in the same tenant, that is the word, and connected through the integration settings. Okay, let's do security baseline. So that's the first thing I want us to look at here. You can see now security baselines are pre-configured set of Windows security settings recommended by Microsoft security team, aligned to CIS benchmark and Microsoft own hardening guidelines. Instead of building your own security configuration from scratch, you start with the baseline, apply it to your Windows device, and then adjust where your organization requirement is differ. So if you look at it now, you can see advanced security baseline for HoloLens 2. We have local AI agent, baseline for OpenClaw. These are baselines that you can apply to your environment. So I will go to antivirus. So the other thing I want us to go to there is antivirus, disk encryption, and firewall. So look at it, disk encryption, and we have firewall here. So these three sections let you configure, report on the fundamental endpoint security controls across your fleet. Antivirus, configure Microsoft Defender antivirus settings, scan schedules, exclusions, and real-time protection across Windows and macOS. See antivirus agent, head status, and detect device where Defender is disabled or unhealthy. So disk encryption, manage BitLocker for Windows and 5 vault for macOS for a single place. Enforce encryption, exclude escrow recovery keys into Intune so IT can recover access when user get logged out and report on encryption compliance. For instance, when users kind of calling that, okay, maybe they're having, maybe they lost, they couldn't log into their system, they need to recover all these things because they are properly done here. You can get them right from this place when everything is properly set up. And the next thing I want to talk about is endpoint privilege management. So that is one there. Endpoint privilege management is one of the most impactful security controls you can implement on Windows, and it's significantly underused. The problem, your user runs a local administrator because applications and IT process have historically required it. So local admin rights means that if a user's device is compromised, the attacker inherits admin privileges on that machine. The principle of least privilege says user should only run standard users, but making that work in practice without breaking productivity has typically be painful. So EPM solves this cleanly. User run as a standard user by default. When they need to run a specific application or perform a task that requires elevation, they request it. An elevator rule either approve it automatically if it matches a pre-approved application definition or route it to a manager for approval with a business justification. The elevation is time limited, logged, and auditable. You get least privilege enforcement without the help desk. Ticket volume that historically came up with removing local admin rights, they are gone. Okay, so that is what happened here. So endpoint privilege management allows you to make sure you scope to what is needed to do their job. When they need elevated privileges, it should be managed, in a way that maybe somebody, there must be an approver or there must be something that is taking some responsibility at that point. So we have another one, endpoint detection and response. The first one is, the last one is endpoint privilege management. That is EPM. This one is endpoint detection and response, and that is EDR. Okay, so this session connects Intune to Microsoft Defender. I was about to say that. So for endpoint, it is where you onboard your managed Windows devices to Defender for endpoint EDR capabilities, deploying the onboarding configuration package through Intune rather than manually or through policy group. When this connection is healthy, which mine currently is not because the product are in separate tenants. Okay, yes. So now threat signals from Defender for endpoint flow back into Intune. A device with active critical threat becomes not compliant automatically. Trigger conditional access to block its access to corporate resources until that threat is remediated. So simple English is that this endpoint detection and response supposed to connect with Microsoft Defender XDR and vice versa. So that is what I'm saying. If my accounts are under the same tenant, they should be communicating. But the reason why you don't see this is because it's not activated under EDR, and I don't want it to do that. Okay, so it will make sure that your EDR, is communicating with your Intune and making sure they are exchanging signals and they are doing the right conditional access to make sure that compromised signatures are detected and responded to as it should be. So I move to app control for business and attack surface. So you see app control for business and attack surface reduction. So these two, what do? App control for business, formerly Windows Defender application control, lets you define exactly which application are allowed to run on your Windows devices. Everything on the approved list is blocked. Everything not on the approved list is blocked. This is your application allowing listing capability deployed and managed through Intune. So here, if you create this, when you create this, all the applications, configuration settings and assignments you put here, they will be allowed. But if they are not on the list, they will be disallowed. So this is where you control the application that can run on your devices. So attack surface reduction rules disable specific Windows behaviors that are commonly exploited by malware, blocking Office applications from creating child processes, preventing script execution from certain locations, blocking credential theft from LSASS. These are configuration level mitigations that reduce the attack surface before any threat has to be detected. So basically here is that we are having like a protection layer that control the kind of applications that can be deployed to endpoint, and another functionality that help you to reduce the attack surface of even your Intune and the fleet that it manages. So that is attack surface reduction here. So it's more or less like creating another policy, but specifically for attack surface reduction. configure it the way you should, set the parameters, and that will go a long way to reduce that. So like for instance, when you say, okay, a script should not be maybe running from C, from directory C, maybe from certain directory, there's some things that it shouldn't be happening there, and you've created a policy that should disallow for that. So what you are doing there, what you are doing there is that you are reducing the attack surface, and the tools and process that you can use to do that in Intune is attack surface reduction, and that's what you have here. So I moved to Explorer. So Explorer is like what we're supposed to have covered before now, but let's just take a look. It's not something. So you don't have access to Copilot in Microsoft Intune. So for me, I don't have access to it. That's why it's kind of not like enable here. But I just want to tell you that in Explorer, it's a home for Microsoft Copilot. So yeah, when Security Copilot is set up and connected, Explorer lets you ask questions in plain English and get answers from your Intune data. How many devices are running an OS version below your compliance minimum, which user have not enrolled a device, show me all Windows devices where BitLocker is not enabled, which application have failed to install in the last 7 days. So what we are seeing here, what this does is that it allows you to use Microsoft Copilot, so that you can use natural language. You can communicate with your security solution with natural language, and you can get a result instead of having to navigate through a lot of reports to get the same information. So I moved to agents. So if you look at it, you see agent here, and again, Security Copilot is not enabled. It's not within my license scope. So, but when you have them, or you work in an environment whereby this is part of your licensing and the product, agent is a first-class navigation item in the Intune portal, sitting at the same level as devices and apps, and the message it shows when you don't have access tell you exactly what this is all about. You need to have the proper permission in Microsoft Intune, Microsoft Defender, and Security Copilot. The benefit described: catch what others miss, respond faster, strengthen team's expertise. These are the things you can do with Copilot, right? These are the things you can do with Copilot. This is the Security Copilot autonomous agent experienced, surface inside Intune. When fully configured, security agents runs continuously, identify devices with unpatched vulnerability, flagging, compliance drift, detecting configuration gaps, and surfacing findings with recommended actions in natural language that any team member can act on without deep technical expertise. So agent require 3 product align: Microsoft Intune, Microsoft Defender, and Security Copilot. All in the same tenant, or with appropriate permission configuration. It is not available in my current environment because I'm a trier, and most of the my configuration span multiple tenants. But one thing you have to know that I'm calling it out here is that when you want this to work, you must have Intune, you must have a Defender and the Security Copilot all in the same tenant within maybe the same license bundle. So that is when you see the 3 of them working together. So after that, what do I see here? I have reports. So let's look at reports. So yeah, there's a lot of report here. But let me just see this. Reports give you 3 distinct types of reporting across your endpoint: organizational report and trend report. Then the other one is advanced reports. So these are the report types you have here: organizational, trends, and advanced report. But whatever it is that your demand is, you can always find it here. Maybe report on you can see generate report, or kind of report you can have here. You see Microsoft Defender antivirus, you can generate a report. It's just a report center. You just look for what you want, and you generate the report. So that is what report does there. Then let's look at users. Okay, this is another big one. So users list with is agent column. Okay, the user session is where you manage user-related Intune settings, all users, sign-in logs, audit logs, password reset, and user settings. But I want to stop on something visible in the user table. So let's look at, okay, good. So we are in the user table right now. So if you look at the user table, you will see, is agent? No. So that is to tell you that now Microsoft is trying to differentiate between, you can have a lot of users, maybe agent users. So they are trying to differentiate whether this user is an agent or is a real human user. So that is a non-human user classification there. So yeah, so most people will scroll past without registering its significance. Look at the column heading in the user list. Display name, user principal, name, user type is agent. on premises, sync identity, all those kind of things. Is agent. That column exists because AI agents are now first-class principals in the Intune directory, sitting in the same user list as human users with a column that explicitly distinguishes whether a principal is human or AI agent. So in my single user, myself shows is user no. So if you look at my own, it says is agent, it says no. So that's to tell you that I'm not an agent, I'm a human user. This is the Entra ID, story from episode 2 that I did before. So I've done, just for information, if you are new here, I have a particular episode on Entra, Microsoft Entra, and under that place, we discuss Entra Agent ID and some other stuff around this. So the identity governance for AI agent and the endpoint management platform are converging into one unified view of your principal estate. So what other thing do we have here? We have groups. So groups. How many groups do we have here? You can create a new group here. I love it when we can create from here because it's a single it will make it a single and unified approach there. So group in Intune are Entra ID group, the same security group, and Microsoft 365 group managed in Entra. Surface here in Intune because groups are how you scope everything. Every configuration profile, every compliance policy, every app deployment, every security baseline assigned to groups. Now, the groups section gives you group management, access review, and insight into group membership directly in the Intune portal without needing to switch to Entra Admin Center. So that is what I was saying, that when you can view insight here, you can see deleted groups here. You can look at general information about some of the problems. You can look at exploration. You can look at access review, audit logs, bug operations. A lot of stuff you can do with groups here. You know something, but note that the groups you have here, they are actually groups that are from Entra ID. They are from Entra ID. So that shows that for you to be able to benefit from this, your Entra ID and your Intune must be running on the same tenant. So I go to tenant administration. So here it's a lot. It is more or less like the beast where most of the configurations are done. So tenant administration is the operational and configurational hub for your Intune environment. Several items here are worth calling out, specifically Cloud KPI, Cloud PKI, Microsoft Cloud-based Certificate Authority. You can see here. So this is a public infrastructure, and when we talk about public infrastructure, we're actually talking about Certificate Authority. And we talk about Microsoft Tuning Gateway. So that's another one. Microsoft Tuning Gateway, it's a VPN gateway solution specifically designed for managed mobile devices. So when your user needs to access on-premise resources from their managed iOS or Android device, internal web apps, internal APIs, on-premise database, Microsoft Tuning provides the secure connection part without requiring traditional corporate VPN. So that is the functionality of the Tuning gateway. Then the other one is connectors and tokens. So let's look at connectors and tokens here. You see connectors and tokens here. So okay, this is where you configure all the third-party integrations. So here you do all third-party configurations. Let me go back a bit. Multi-admin approver. This multi-admin approver. So what do you do here? A governance control that requires a second administrator to approve sensitive Intune operations before they can execute. So this is a multi-layer approval now. If there's anything that is sensitive configuration that needs to be set or modified, there should be a fourth eye on it to make sure that that control is administered. And then we have Copilot Preview. Copilot Preview is another one. And then we have Microsoft Entra Privilege Identity Management. Microsoft Entra Privilege Identity, you see that here. So that is another functionality within the tenant admin. Copilot review here. Let me preview here. Then what do we have again? Multi-admin approver. All of them, there are a lot of things here, but good thing is that the most important thing is that what is the function of tenant admin? You know what the tenant what it does. That is where your configuration and most of your management are being done. But the functionality, I just picked some, I think almost 90% of it, to just speak briefly about what they do and how you can use them. So then we go to Surface Management Portal. Okay, Surface Management Portal. So now, Surface Management Portal is a specialist sub-portal within Intune, specifically for organization running Microsoft Surface device fleet. It gives you hardware level visibility into your Surface devices, warranty status, device health, insight, service order management, and something that stand out as unique as you need is carbon emission tracking. You can view and report on the carbon emission associated with your surface fleet. That is a sustainability reporting capability built into endpoint management platform. Not something you see often. Yeah, I know that. So, so Surface Management Portal is if your organization is using a Microsoft Surface hardware, so you can do much more. This is Tunnel Gateway. Yeah, some gateway there. So we have a Surface. We don't have here. So okay, so we have a that's what Surface Management Portal does, and then finally we come to troubleshooting and support. So the name just tell you that this is where you give troubleshooting gives you a user-centric investigation tool. You search for specific user and see every device they've ever used, and every app assigned to them, every policy scope to them, and every event log associated with them. So this is like a troubleshooting center. Is where you can kind of do some more streamlined troubleshooting, maybe providing some details, and you get more information at a single pane of glass. Yeah. So let's look at the zero trust endpoint loop. Just something I want to say. Let me close by connecting the dot, because Intune does not work in isolation. That's one thing we have to know. It works as part of the zero trust enforcement chain. So a device enroll in Intune and get its configuration profile. Compliance policies are applied and the device is evaluated. The compliance status is shared with Entra Conditional Access. When that device or the order on it, when that device or the user on it tries to access corporate resource, conditional access evaluate. Is this device compliant? Is the user risk score acceptable? Is the device defender, threat level within tolerance? If any of these signals are wrong, access is blocked. No, not after a ticket is raised, not after security analyst reviews a dashboard. Immediately, automatically, at the moment of access. That is the loop. Intune enforces device state. Entra enforces access. Defender enforces threat response. All three talking to each other continuously. Now, and in 2026, that loop is expanding. AI agents are appearing in your user list. Explorers let Copilot query your entire endpoint estate in natural language. Security agents runs autonomously to catch issues before your team does. The endpoint of 2026 is not just a laptop or a phone. It is every device and every agent touching your data. Yes, touching your data. Intune is how you govern all of it. Intune is how you govern all of it. So 3 things you have to take away. Intune is not just MDM. The compliance signal it generates for conditional access is what makes your identity control actually enforce device state. Without Intune, your Entra policies have no device signal to evaluate. With it, they have a continuous real-time compliance score for every managed device. 2. App protection. Policies extend your reach to unmanaged, bring your own device without requiring full enrollment. Your corporate data on Outlook and Word on personal device is governed even when the device itself is not. 3. Connect Intune to Defender for endpoint. That connector, visible in endpoint security overview, is what closes the loop between device compliance and active threat response. Without it, you have 2 separate systems. With it, you have one integrated enforcement platform. So that is what the 3 takeaways at the end of Intune walkthrough. And I want to thank everyone that joined me, or everyone that will be taking a stab at this video at the end of the day to pick some knowledge from it. Yeah, I know it's a long one, and I want to thank you for joining me. And the next one will be Priva, Microsoft Priva. Thank you. Bye.